now that we've got our pieces, let's begin assembling the birdhouse. I've got a back, and I'm going to put my front and my floor and my roof aside for just a minute. And I'm just going to focus on the back and the sides. Okay? Remember, keep your markings on the inside of your birdhouse so that when you go to finish it, it's going to look super nice on the outside, okay? Now, we're going to go ahead and attach our first two sides. Now, this part is important because if you notice on this birdhouse, in order to make sure that every year that the birds start with a fresh new home, I've left a little overhang so that I can pull out the side and empty it out as I need to, okay? And then close it back up, and next season it's ready for the birds to come back. So we're going to do the same thing with our pieces here, and that means attaching them. Now, remember, I'm using a little bit longer nail than we normally would, so the hammering is going to be kind of tedious at this point. However, it's important to make sure a few things, no matter what size nail you're using. A, that the nail goes in fairly straight, because a crooked nail will then stick out into your birdhouse, and I don't think your birds are going to enjoy that quite as much. Or it'll stick on the outside and you may risk injuring yourself. So we want to make sure that when we nail these on, that we go ahead and get them straight in line with the birdhouse pieces so that they're not going to come out either end of the nailing, either end of the house. Now I'm going to put one in, and I'm going to show you how to make the hinged roof. Now one thing I'm doing is just leaving the bottom a little bit of one side sticking out just below, and that gives me a chance to grab this piece and then use it like a hinge, much like I did here, so that I can use that to lift the side up. All right, let's go ahead and get nailing. I'm going to put one nail in first, mostly because nailing two at a time is really hard. So we're going to just get that in, and I want to make sure that it's kind of catching, so I like to check my spot a little bit, and if I have to adjust, I can kind of hammer the nail back out a little bit. Oops. And readjust. Your parents can help you with nailing this. If you're really good with a hammer, I know many of our students have done a hammering work either in EC or in our summer program. Okay, one side. Now, I'm going to put the other side on as well, and this side can actually line right up to the bottom because this side will not be a hinged piece. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll get a couple of nails, and again, making sure that I'm flush on the side. And what that means, flush, it means that if I run my finger up in here, I don't really feel much of the edge. So this, you can tell, how's this? How's that go? That's really hard to do in the mirror. This, you can tell, is not a flush. Flush. Yeah. Now, we also know about flushing because every time we go to the bathroom, unless you're part of the yellow Let It Mellow, you will usually flush. But that's a little different kind of flush. This time we're making sure our side and our back of the birdhouse are, in fact, flush. I'm going to hammer this in. Again, making sure that my nail goes right into the wood. And then I'm going to hammer this bottom in and just put another quick one right here. Little happy little nail. Now, whoa, do you see what happened there? What did I miss? I didn't make sure that it was straight. So I'm going to back it back out. Not a hard fix. I'm going to back the nail back out. And we're going to just try it again. Usually you can get it right the second time. Now again, this is my fourth build, so it took me once or twice. But that's neither here nor there. Go ahead and hammer that in. Oh, and that feels much better. And now you can see that I've got it straight into the wood. There's no nail showing. That's where we had it out, but there's no nail there now. It's buried. Way to go. All right. Now, what's next? Well, we need a floor. Now, our floor, again, I made our floor 4.5 inches. Why did I make it 4.5 inches? Because when I go to put it in here, and it just should fit just right, and again, my sides, if I do this right, should be, for the most part, flush. Now, don't beat yourself up if it's not right, all right? This is a happy little birdhouse, and you're going to have some happy little birds. Now, here's the key for this. Remember when we talked about the side being a hinge? We want to make sure that we don't lock this down yet, okay? Because we want to be able to have it open up, all right? Now, so I'm going to go ahead and work from the other. This is my hinge side. Oh, and I just lost my floor. Bottom's falling out, but that's okay. We're going to put our floor back in, and I'm going to make sure I hammer this side in. And I'm going to use 2 nails. Now, this side being the one that's not hinged, right? Not the. So I'm going to hammer that in. And I'm going to put another one in the front because I just like to be a little more sturdy. I like my birds to. Just make sure that's straight. Again, making sure your nails are straight. Now, okay, here we are. So far, we've got a great floor. My side will still open once I get my door on. And then we'll talk about how to make that a little more sturdy. Now, we need a front. Our birdhouse needs a front. So, let's put our front. Let's lower this just a little because I think we'll be able to have a better visual. Let's put our front on. Now, you'll notice that the front fits flush up to our sides and to our little bottom, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and nail. Now, I'm going to make sure that I'm nailing on the side that isn't the door. Remember, this is my door side. I'm constantly checking that so that I don't accidentally nail my door shut. That makes it a lot harder to clean out and harder to get apart if you have to make it, if you have to fix it. So I learned that the hard way. So learn from me if you can. We'll edit that out. Let's go ahead and nail in our front. And I'm going to put nails in all of this side because I know that this is not the side that opens. So I can be safe, feel fairly safe nailing that in. Okay, now for the side that opens, this is important. We're going to go ahead and create sort of like a hinge. And it basically is just a pivot point off of these 2 nails. So I'm going to go ahead and nail this one in the top. Make sure we're flush again, lining up flush. Oh my goodness. And flush. All right, here we have our birdhouse so far. And again, I'm just going to double check. Yes, my side opens and closes. Now, why does it do that? Because I've put a nail here and a nail here, and they act like a little hinge. Okay? What's next? We're going to go ahead and put our roof on. Now, you'll see that I'm kind of putting the roof at a bit of an angle. You see that? Why am I making the roof a little bit of an angle? Now, this is where you're going to need a little extra hands unless you've got some pretty good, whatever. You might need hands. Why am I making the roof like this? Because if you go outside and take a look at your home and you look up at the roof line, you're going to see little holes right underneath where the roof comes out. Now, those holes aren't for birds to go live in. In fact, you'll probably notice that they're covered with some sort of wire or mesh to prevent animals from going up in the roof. But what they are there for is to allow moisture and excess heat to escape the home so that it doesn't just sit up there and turn into mold and make your house yucky and gross. So I'm going to go ahead and put this roof at a bit of an angle and nail it on. Now, it's very important to make sure. I'm going to turn this inside out so that. Now I'm going to have it at just a bit of an angle, and I'm going to start my nail into the top, and then I'm going to hold it at an angle while I nail it. And that will help me keep the angle without losing the vent. Now, the chances are that we've done something a little bit screwy in there, and the vent would have been made correctly had I done something else, but we'll figure that out later, and we can always make it work. It's kind of the beauty of woodworking is that unless you're recording your mistakes, let's go ahead on with our recording. I'm going to go ahead and hammer this other side of the roof in. And then, I can still, you see how I can still sort of play with that angle? I'm just going to make it I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm just sort of wiggling it up a little bit so that I can nail in the top part. Now, I'm hanging my roof off the edge a little so that it doesn't lean on the table, and you can figure out that that's probably your favorite way too. Now your nail at this point, as you can see, maybe you can't, I don't know. My nail's going to go in at the same angle my roof is. So if I were to put my nail in like that, where would it go? It would stick out like this. Unhappy birds. But if I put it at the same angle, it'll go straight in and straight down, holding this roof at the angle I've got it. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Make sure we didn't miss. We didn't. Good. There. All right, let's do one more side. And then, let's see where we are. Let's turn this one in. Ta-da! Ready for our birds. It's not? Why not? I've got two sides. I've got a back, I've got a roof, I've got a floor, and I've got a front. What am I missing? Let's take a look. Oh, I see it. Even though we have what we kind of consider a door, I don't think our little birds are going to be able to make this work. So they're going to need a way in. And what that means is now we get to use another power tool. Again, I'm going to go ahead and safety first. And we're going to use this power tool. Now this is like we talked about, a 1 1/4 inch drill bit. Now the information that we have, and I'll give you the website that we used, shows us that 1 1/4 inch is about optimal. Let me hammer this down. Is an optimal size for our little feathered friends. Nuthatch, wren, chickadee, and some of our other small northwest birds. So I'm going to load up this drill bit and very easy tool to use, but also can be a very dangerous tool. If I were to start drilling with my hand here, what do you think might happen? Don't visualize that. But let's go ahead and make our hole. Now, our instructions call for a 1 inch hole or up to 1 1/4 inch hole, which is what we're going to do. And it requires it to be about 1 inch down from the top. So I'm going to get my tape measure. And I'm going to measure 1 inch from the top. But if I measure 1 inch from the top here and put my hole, is that going to be at the right spot? I didn't think so either. How do I find out where is the middle of this board? Well, I'm going to measure across the board, and we're going to find out that our board is actually 5 1/2 inches wide. Now, I'm going to use that measurement and then cut it in half. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2 inches. Well, I'm going to go with half of 5. Now, what is half of 5? Well, 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 3 is 5. So 2 and something plus 2 and something must equal 5. Well, I know that 2 1/2 plus 2 1/2 equals 5. But our measurement isn't just 5, it's 5 1/2. So, what is a half of a half? Well, for many of you who have gone with lower elementary, you may know, or have done any cooking at all, actually, you might know that half of a half is a quarter. So I'm going to go with 1, 2, and 1/4. But wait a minute, that's not right either. Because 2 1/2 plus 2 1/2 is 5. So that means it's got to be more than 1/4, because we need 5 1/2. So I'm going to go 2 1/2 plus 1/4, which makes it 2 3/4. So we're going to put 2 3/4 measurement. And that was a long way to go that maybe we'll just do some music on that and cover that. I don't know, we'll see. But right now we're going to go with 2 3/4. And I'm going to make a mark. I turn 3/4. Good. Now, does that look like it's centered from here and here? It looks about in the middle. Not bad. Now, we said it had to be how far down? 1 inch. So let's go to 1 inch. Oh my gosh, and is that really just that lucky? It sure as heck is. 1 inch down. Well, let's go ahead and do it at 1 1/2 because I think that's just a little high. All right. So here's our mark. Now you'll notice that this drill bit has a wonderful little tool, and it's got a starting tool. Now this drill is a special drill bit in that it makes a wider hole. Many drill bits that you may have seen your parents use will make a hole and then they'll put like a screw or something inside that hole after the fact. This one is just going to make the hole so that our birds can go in. So here we go. Safety glasses on, and we're going to place our drill in here. And I'm trying to make sure that it is not only up and down. If I were to drill like this, the hole would be kind of funky sideways. If I were to drill like this, the hole would be kind of funky sideways. So I want my drill to be up and down this way and straight up and down this way. What we would call a 90-degree angle from our wood. Here we go. Now, one thing I like to do is kind of brace things. So let's back this up a little bit. And let's grab a clamp. Now what a clamp does is it holds something. It's like an extra pair of hands. It holds something that you can't hold with your other hand. So while I'm going to be drilling this, I want it clamped down. Here, let's see which side is better. I want it clamped down so that when I go to drill it, it doesn't go shaking all over and I'm trying to do this. Not a safe thing because this drill can be dangerous if it gets out of control. So we're going to make sure again that we are straight up and down and straight up and down. And then we're going to drill. Our helm is clamped, so it shouldn't spin on us too much. Ooh, let's back it up and let's try again. Gentle pressure, and you'll see that it's drilling the hole for us. Oh, this bird's gonna like it. Let's take a look. I'm going to actually give them some cedar chips inside. So all of our little shavings might be some nice bedding starts. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. So let's make sure our hole has got some spots in there. Now, there we are. A 1 1/4 inch hole. Roughly it's pretty close to the middle. We're going to count it. Our birds aren't going to be that critical, so don't be too hard on yourself. And we've got a nice little area to clean it out every year and to give them some space. We've got a vent so that they can have cool air, warm air, and not get too soggy and gross in there. And you've got a completed cedar birdhouse for your small Northwest birds. Go ahead and hang this on a tree or on a post outside your home or even on your cedar fence and watch the birds enjoy their brand new home. Thank you for joining us today, or really just me, but thank you for joining me today on Building with Mr. Scott.